and Ren came to the scam den carrying 2 buckets of gasoline. The security at the door stopped him, telling this country bumpkin to best get lost before he finished counting to 3. 1, 2, 3.
Put down the gasoline buckets, and just as the 2 security guards were about to draw their weapons, this man in work clothes swiftly took them down. He skillfully dismantled the handguns, then continued carrying the 2 buckets of gasoline into the building. After registering, he told the receptionist to leave. He then entered the company interior, where employees were still making calls to victims around the world. These people were amused by his words. "Who do you think you are? Daring to be arrogant here?" He stopped talking, and instead grabbed the phone from the bald guy next to him, repeatedly smashing his fist into the man's head. His crazy behavior finally made everyone stop what they were doing, and turn to look at this madman. Under everyone's gaze, he poured the 2 barrels of gasoline he brought over the computers and phones. Those who were still hesitating were completely panicked, and fled in a hurry. Soon the company manager arrived with others. The manager questioned who he was, and the man only said he was a beekeeper, and for those poisonous bees, he would burn them all with fire. The manager didn't care about this, and immediately ordered his subordinates to take him down. Before they could act, the beekeeper had already started moving. In the blink of an eye, these people fell to the ground one after another. He didn't bother with the manager, and instead continued to place a timed explosive on the 2 barrels of gasoline, then turned and left. In his panic, the manager also hurried to escape, and during this time, some victims were still making calls within the company. However, no one was answering the phone anymore. Suddenly, the entire fraud building exploded violently. Just a day before, Jason was merely an ordinary beekeeper. Aunt May, his retired landlord, took great care of him, and Jason often brought her honey. But today, Aunt May received a warning about a computer virus. Following the instructions, she called a number to remove the virus, unaware that this was a common tactic used by fraud companies. The company manager gradually guided Aunt May to open a website, and they immediately obtained all the information on her computer, including the $2 million in her account. Seeing so much money, the manager immediately instructed others to transfer the funds. Pages of ads popped up on Aunt May's computer, and in just a minute, the $2 million in her account were completely stolen. They didn't see this as a shameful act. Instead, they took pride in it. Aunt May not only discovered that her over $10,000 of retirement savings were gone, but also the $2 million from the children's charity fund had disappeared. It was only then that she realized she had been scammed, which filled her with immense guilt. At night, Jason brought a jar of homemade honey. Holding a pistol and with bloodstains, suddenly a woman appeared behind him, pointing a gun at him. Jason was threatened to drop the knife, and was handcuffed by this woman. Jason recognized her as Aunt May's daughter, but she didn't recognize him. Rona turned around. She saw that her mother had been shot in the head and was already dead. Aunt May's daughter is a detective, but because of her work, she is often away. Although Jason is the prime suspect, everything at the scene proves that Aunt May committed suicide. Rona found it hard to accept for a moment. She couldn't believe that her mother, who loved life, would take such a drastic step. After giving his statement, Jason was released, and Rona realized she had wrongly accused him. She apologized for her actions the previous night, and Jason did not blame her. He was also saddened by Aunt May's death. Rona had learned from the computer that her mother had been blown up. Although she was with the FBI, she knew nothing about this fraud gang, leaving her with no way to avenge her mother. Jason didn't say much, but turned back to his beekeeping farm, where he took out a piece of Winbook. A satellite phone was hidden in the middle. Jason then dialed a number, mentioning Aunt May's name and address, asking the other party to find information on this fraud group. In less than an hour, Jason received a reply. The information that the FBI couldn't uncover was easily obtained by them. However, this fraud organization's branches were spread across the country. After getting the location of the company closest to Jason, he drove with 2 cans of gasoline to find the criminal group that defrauded Aunt May. He shut down this place that harmed countless people, avenging Aunt May and preventing other victims from being persecuted. In the mobile building far away in Boston, which was the headquarters of the fraud company, the boss was a cynical playboy. The manager informed him about the destruction of the company, noting that just this one branch, along with the equipment, resulted in losses exceeding $50 million. This instantly enraged the playboy, and he sought out the company's chief consultant, Old White, who was a retired director of the Federal Security Bureau. He was actually hired by the playboy's mother. Old White said, "I only take care of you, the rest is up to you to figure out." Helpless, the playboy could only use the company's cloud database to find the information of the last defrauded person and then use that information to track down the guy who blew up the building. The playboy wanted to make sure he knew the consequences of crossing him. Back at the apiary, Jason was still busy tending to the honey. He didn't know that the manager had already checked through the cloud database and that the old lady who was defrauded of $2 million yesterday lived here. The manager had someone shoot and destroy the beehives that Jason had carefully nurtured, not realizing they had provoked someone they shouldn't have. The manager and his group then went to the warehouse Jason had rented, each of them armed with real weapons, and they even knocked over Jason's honey. They then searched everywhere for Jason's whereabouts, but Jason had already sensed their arrival. During the search, a bald man was suddenly confronted by Jason, who aimed a screwdriver at his eye. However, he didn't go for the kill immediately. Instead, he strangled him with a chain until he passed out. Due to the unfamiliar environment, another person was also strangled with a gun barrel, and his teeth were knocked out on the spot. After taking out 2 people, Jason approached another person, disarmed him, and killed him with a single shot, executing the move with precision and efficiency. When only the manager was left, he was completely panicked. He had thought that having weapons would give them the upper hand, but he didn't expect that the opponent would easily take down 3 of them alone. The manager, in a flustered state, tried to plead with Jason to cut off 3 of his fingers on the spot, but Jason didn't kill him. Instead, he took his bag and turned to leave. The manager drove away alone, escaping in his car, and just as he was waiting at the bridge, he then dialed the phone number of the Prince brother, telling him about how the 3 people he brought were killed, and how his own fingers were involved. Upon hearing this, the prince brother was instantly unsettled. How could a beekeeper manage to take down 3 armed assassins? Just as the manager was tearfully complaining, Jason appeared again. He had been tracking this goldfish all along to find out who the boss behind the scenes was. He tied the manager up with a rope and finally touched the outfit he wore while beekeeping, indicating that things seemed calm. It seems that a peaceful life is no longer possible. Then he shifted gears and let the pickup truck charge forward. Hearing the manager's miserable cries, even Prince was startled into a cold sweat. Jason picked up the manager's phone to ask for the name of the boss behind the scenes. Naturally, Prince wouldn't and didn't dare to tell him, and he cursed Jason to cover up his own panic. After the bridge was lowered again, Jason drove away in the manager's car. Prince told the whole story to Old Bai. When Old Bai, the retired director of the security bureau, heard the name Beekeeper, he immediately felt overwhelmed. If Prince had gotten into any other trouble, Old Bai could have helped settle it. But if the Beekeeper wanted to kill Prince, there were few people in the entire country who could stop it, and even Old Bai couldn't afford to offend him. Prince was also quite frightened upon hearing this, just as Old Bai was considering backing out. Prince's mother called, insisting that he must ensure her son's safety at all costs. After much consideration, Old Bai agreed. He used his status as the former director of the security bureau to contact the current director, asking for help in investigating the beekeeper whom Prince had offended. The current director would somewhat heed the words of an elder like him. That evening, the current director responded, revealing that Jason was the former beekeeper, and the current beekeeper was very disdainful of Jason's recent actions. Coupled with the current director's instructions, the current beekeeper decided to eliminate the old Jason. He fired a barrage of shots at the driver's seat, but Jason had already taken cover. A nearby police car arrived upon hearing the gunshots, but the current beekeeper indiscriminately opened fire on the people inside the police car, which inadvertently gave Jason a chance to counterattack. The beekeeper was hit on the head with a can of bees, causing him to bleed profusely. Jason lit a lighter, instantly igniting the bees on him. The poor current beekeeper became a human torch. Jason cut off one of his fingers, then borrowed a car from a passerby and left the scene. When Old Bai heard that the current beekeeper had been killed instead, he became anxious. The Beekeeper, this mysterious organization, is only neutral. It is a legitimate organization independent of the FBI and the Federal Security Bureau. The purpose of the Beekeeper's existence is to protect the safety of the entire country. They are not controlled by anyone, and can act entirely based on their own judgment. The current director of security also dares not interfere anymore, and now it is up to Old Bai alone to protect the Crown Prince. To counter the Beekeeper's retaliation, Old Bai used his identity too. To counter the Beekeeper's retaliation, Old Bai used his identity to hire a top-notch SEAL at great expense to fight them. Their goal was simply to prevent the Beekeepers from killing people. At this time, Jason had already driven to a secret location, where he used the current Beekeeper's finger to open the rice. Inside was one of the secret bases of the Beekeeper organization. Jason connected to the base's database using the manager's phone and found the exact location of the prince. He then picked up various weapons and equipment. He drove away in a new pickup truck. At the headquarters in Boston, not only was there the combat team hired by Old Bai to protect the prince's safety, but there was also a federal enforcement team sent by the police to protect the building. Just as they were planning their defense, Jason appeared beside them, and they thought he was there to cause trouble. Jason single-handedly took down more than a dozen members of the enforcement team. He then grabbed one as a hostage and entered the building. The team hired by Old Bai initially wanted to clear everyone out of the company, as stopping operations for even a minute would cost millions. The prince couldn't bear to lose that money, so the team leader had no choice but to leave with his men. Little did they know, Jason had already blended into the crowd. As soon as one person spotted him, they were thrown out. Jason stepped onto the stage intending to destroy everything there, just as the combat team returned, and they recklessly opened fire on Jason. Jason braved the hail of bullets and managed to escape. The team leader immediately ordered a pursuit. This squad was well trained, but Jason still found opportunities to take them down one by one. He then activated the fire alarm switch, and as the leader came to check, Jason seized his gun and shot him, killing the other members on the spot. Just after taking down the leader, more people arrived downstairs. Jason quickly escaped into the elevator and climbed into the elevator shaft. The arriving squad frantically fired their guns upwards. After dealing with the trouble, Jason returned to the office area and smashed all the However, upon learning the truth, Jason did not abandon his actions. At this moment, Old White also deeply felt the Beekeeper's fear, realizing he was powerless to protect the safety of the Crown Prince. He could only have the Crown Prince call his mother to seek refuge. Although this son often gets into trouble, he is still very fond of him. The female president even hired a blonde guy to protect her son's safety. This blonde guy once single-handedly took down a beekeeper, but at the cost of a leg. Outside, there are fully armed special forces and assault teams surrounding the Black House, and even the manhole covers in the sewers have been welded shut. No one could sneak into the Black House from the outside, but Jason was already prepared. When a vertical shaft had not yet been welded, he crawled under a car, hiding on the drive shaft. When the Special Forces personnel entered under the car to check, Jason suddenly struck, knocking them out, and then changed into their clothes, disguising himself as a Special Forces member. He placed a bomb he had prepared in advance near the wheel of a car, then changed into a suit to enter the Black House. However, his shiny bald head was quickly noticed, prompting the Special Forces assault teams and other personnel to take action together. The blonde who had killed the Beekeeper first took control of him. The blonde was well aware of the Beekeeper's fearsome reputation, and after getting permission from Old White, he was about to shoot Jason dead. But before he could act, the car next to them suddenly exploded, and Jason took action at that moment. After breaking through encirclement, Jason fought his way to the second floor of Black Palace, taking down security personnel along the way. No one could stop him from eliminating the Crown Prince. Just as he was about to enter the female president's office, a blonde-haired man suddenly rushed out to stop him. In the previous battle, the opponent hadn't been killed and had taken down a beekeeper, proving his formidable strength. Jason suffered a setback due to the surprise attack. Jason was stabbed in the stomach with a knife. He mustered all his strength to pull the knife out, but the opponent wouldn't let go. Seizing the opportunity, he kicked the prosthetic leg of the blonde-haired man, quickly got up and snatched the knife to stab it into the opponent's arm. The limping blonde-haired man, with his body continuously getting cut, finally fell heavily to the ground. At this moment, Old Boy still tried to persuade Jason to stop, even using his body to block the door. Jason didn't hold back and twisted his fingers backward. An explosion directly blew open the main door. The young master, hiding inside in order to protect himself, even used his own mother as a threat. Suddenly, Jason raised his hand. He shot and killed the young master with one bullet, then jumped out of the window. Rona aimed her gun at Jason, but she couldn't avenge her mother, while Jason, just a tenant, accomplished something ordinary people couldn't. In the end, she lowered her gun, allowing Jason to escape. Jason had already planned his escape route. He disappeared into the sea with diving equipment.